All right, hey guys, Mr. Kyle, Myers Mathematics, and let's just jump right into it. We are going to name polynomials. So polynomial, poly means like many. It can also mean like not so many because I wouldn't consider one or two many. But it just means like any number, I guess. So poly means kind of like any number, and then nomial means like a term or a group of stuff being multiplied or whatever. And yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. And there's gonna be two things. There's degree, so there's gonna be degree, and then number of terms. So the degree is gonna be like a fancy word, right? So if it's one term, it's a monomial. Mono is one, like mono y mono. And then bi, like bicycle, two terms. Tri, like tricycle, three terms, so on and so on. So let's look at number one. So the degree. The degree is actually the harder out of the two. So maybe I'll start with number of terms. Number of terms is actually not that difficult to figure out. It's just going to be however many things are separated by plus and minus. If you see a plus or a minus that separates two different groups of things, then you've got that many things basically. However many things are separated by pluses and minuses. So we've got two things here. So two terms, okay, and we'll call that a binomial. So binomial, which literally means two terms, right? It's just a fancy word for two terms. Then the degree. Okay, so degree is going to be the highest power. The highest power of the first term right here is 4, and the highest power here, that's a 3. So basically, you look at all of the terms, right? So since it's a binomial, there's two terms. We look at both terms, and we look at the power of the term, right? So the coefficient, the 2, right, the 2 in front of the 2p4, that doesn't really matter. That could be big or small, and it doesn't have any effect on the degree. You just look at the highest power, look at the power of all of them, really, and then the highest power wins, basically. So it's a fourth degree binomial. So fourth degree, or you can call it quartic. So I don't know if you guys are going to get super fancy. I'll call it quartic here, but in the future, I'll just call it a fourth degree. That's a little bit less formal, but a fourth degree is called a quartic. So it's a quartic binomial would be its fancy title. Or you could just say it has two terms and it's a 4 degree. Fourth degree, two terms. Right? So you don't have to get super fancy, but if your teacher needs you to be all fancy, you can be all fancy, I guess. This one only has one term. There is a minus sign, but there's nothing in front of the minus sign. I mean, besides, the fact that it's number 2. But that's not part of the thing. So it's just one thing, which is, so it's one term, right? One term. I don't know why I put terms. That would be not plural. One term. So it's a monomial. Mono. And then we look at the degree. Well, there's no visible power, but that doesn't mean it's a 0 power. 0 would mean there's no a's. There is an a. If you don't see a power, then it's a power of 1. If you don't see a power, it's a power of 1. Kind of like you can multiply anything by 1 and it doesn't change it. You can take any number to the 1 power and it doesn't change it because it just means there's one of them. But we already knew that. So if you don't see a power, it's a 1 power. So it's a first degree. First degree. I feel like we're talking about black belts here. First degree black belt. First degree. And so we just call that linear. It's a first degree, so it's a line. If you were to graph that, like let's say it was x, negative 10x equals y. If you were to graph that, it would be a graph of a line. So that's why we call it a linear. Right, negative 10a doesn't really look like a line in that form, but it is. So there you go. Let's go on to the next set here, and I'm going to just keep switching colors as we go. So let's move down. And let's see here, 2x squared. Okay, so it's just one thing, right? So monomial. monomial. Right, one term, monomial, and then this is a power of 2. Right, it's a power of 2, so it's a second degree, and the fancy name for that would be a quadratic. So it's a quadratic if it's a power of 2. Speaking of powers of 2, this one also has that. This one's got 2 things. So it's a binomial. And then we want to see, well, what's the power, right? Well, this is a power of 2. This is a power of 0, actually. So it's a power of 0. It's just a 7, right? So it's not a power of 7. There's no k variable on the 7. There's no variable at all. So if there's no variable at all, then it has a degree of 0. That means there's 0 variables in there. So the larger number, the largest number, I should say, wins. So it's a 2, so it's a second degree as well. Second degree, or you can call it a quadratic. Okay, and I'm only going to call it by its like fancy name once. So once we've, like we've already said second degree, and we call that a quadratic. So from here on out, like if I get another second degree, I'm just going to call it a second degree. But, excuse me, you'll also see that if it's a second degree, it's a quadratic, right? So depends on what you guys want to call it in class. If you're going to call it a quadratic, you call it a quadratic. So it's up to you. But I'm just going to call it a second degree or whatever from here on out, or fourth degree or first degree or whatever. Okay. Just a heads up on that. Okay, let's look at the next one. This one's got 1, 2, 3 terms. So it's a trinomial, right? So trinomial. It's got 3 terms. And this one is a power of 4, a power of 1, and a power of 0, right? You don't add them up, you just compare them and take the highest number. So it's a 4th degree, right, which is a quartic, or you can just call it a 4th degree. 4th degree trinomial. All right, on to the next one. We've got 1, 2 things. So it's a binomial. And that's a power of 4. That's a power of 3. 4 wins. So it is a 4th degree binomial. All right, on to the next one. Making short work out of these now. Okay. Let's zoom back in. I don't know why I decided to zoom out. Oh, because I was going to scroll. That's why. Scrolling. So this one, it's got 1 thing. Monomial. Monomial. And it's a power of 1. So it's linear, or we can call it first degree. First degree monomial. All right, this one right here. 1 thing, so it's a monomial. But that has a degree of 0. There's no variable. For that. So this one's actually a 0 degree. It's a 0 degree. You wouldn't even, it's like 0th, I guess, 0th degree. I'm just going to call it 0 degree because I think that sounds better. It's a 0 degree, and we call that a constant. So if it's a 0 degree, we call it a constant. First degree is a linear. Technically, if it's a constant, then it's just a type of linear function, but that's what it's called. So 0 degree is called a constant. Okay, on to the next one. It's got 1, 2 things, so it's a binomial. And that's a degree 1, that's a degree 0, so it is a first degree binomial. First degree binomial. Okay? Now we've got 2 things. So binomial. And that's a power of 2. That's a power of 1. Second power is the highest, so it is a second degree. Which again, we call that a quadratic. Second degree binomial. Okay. I think we're almost done. Oh no, there's another page. Okay. But I mean, at this point, we're pretty much like we're picking up some steam here because we're not really running into anything that's new. At this point, we're pretty much getting into the groove here, where you just kind of do the same thing. Nothing new is really happening here, so you just kind of go for it. 1, 2, 3, 4 things now. So 4 things: monomial, binomial, trinomial, and then quadrinomial. So this has 4 terms. You can just call it a polynomial. Usually after trinomial, you can probably just get away with calling it a polynomial. But it's got 4 terms. And then you can either call that a polynomial, a polynomial, polynomial. But I would call it a quadrinomial. That would be the fancy word for it, the quadrinomial. Okay, because it's got 4 terms. And then what's the degree here? So that's a 5, 3, 2, and a 0. They don't have to be in order, but they usually are. I'm pretty sure all the questions so far have been in descending order. So the highest power is the first power. They don't have to put it in that form, so watch out for that. It's not guaranteed to be like that. So just look at all of them just to be safe. But the highest power there is a 5, which is actually called a quintic. So it's a 5th degree. 5th degree. And the fancy word for that is quintic. Quintic. Okay. And I don't know what it's called after that. I think it's just like sextic or something like that, maybe. But I don't know for sure. So after 5th, I'm just going to call it, I'm definitely just going to say 6th degree, 7th degree, whatever. Speaking of, it's a binomial. And that's a 7, and that's a 4 degree. So that's a 7th degree. 7th degree binomial. Okay. On to the next. Here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 things. So that is a quadrinomial. You don't really have to call it that. I think, in my experience, they normally just give up and just start calling it a polynomial after 3. So after a trinomial, they usually just call it a polynomial. But I like to call it quadrinomial because I think it's a fun word to say. So I'm going to call it a quadrinomial. Then this is a 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's a 4th degree. 4th degree. 4th degree. Quadrinomial. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4th degree. So it's 4 terms. So quadrinomial. Quadrinomial. And the highest power is 7. 7, 6, 3, 0. Highest power is 7, so it's a 7th degree. 7th degree quadrinomial. Alright, let's move down. We're on the second half now, rounding it out here, and it's we're pretty much done. The second half will go faster than the first because there's less to explain. We're getting kind of repetitive at this point. So we're just going to keep doing what we're doing, and round off the rest of this here. So that's a binomial. And I'll start to go a little bit faster too as we go along here because we're getting so repetitive that I don't feel like I need to count each time. And that is a 2nd degree. 2nd degree binomial. Then here, this is a 0th degree. 0th degree, or a constant, you can call it. 0th degree monomial. Alright, here we got 3 things, and the highest power is 4. So this would be a 4th degree. 4th degree trinomial. Now I'm going to switch up the order and just kind of go in this order. This order actually makes more sense because this is how they normally want you to name it. They want you to name it by degree first and then by number of terms. That's why they said to do it that way at the very beginning. I just kind of ignored them because it's easier to figure out if it's a monomial or a binomial than it is to figure out the degree. So that's why I did it kind of backwards at first. This one is a first degree. First degree. So it's linear. First degree binomial. Binomial. Alright, this is a sixth degree. Sixth degree. Oh, if I keep forgetting to change the color. Sixth degree binomial. I'll change the color out after this one. This is a fifth degree. So sixth degree, I forget what that's called, but fifth degree is quintic. So it's a quintic fifth degree binomial. So these are all binomials. Binomial. Okay, we will change color. I just forgot to change color for like a bunch of them. Because we're going a little bit faster now, so maybe that's why. Alright, this is a fifth degree monomial. Sorry, my handwriting's a little sloppy here. This one is a fifth degree monomial as well. So I'm just gonna draw an arrow to it. They're both fifth degree monomials. Alright, this one is 1, 2, 3, 4. And they're not in order this time. See, I told you. They will do that. So the highest power here is a 4, actually. So it's a fourth degree. Fourth degree. Quadrinomial. Quadrinomial. This one's going to be a linear or first degree. So first degree binomial. Binomial. Let's change color, because why not? Then here we've got the highest power is 2. Oh, we got to switch back to draw. There we go. So highest power is 2, so it is a second degree or a quadratic second degree trinomial. Over here we got 3 terms, so it's also trinomial. Highest power is 6, so it's a sixth degree trinomial. Alright. We are almost there, y'all. Scroll down a little bit here. Yeah, we're on the last 4 now. And then after this, you might be able to see a little bit further because those are the answers. They have the answers included. That's why I like these worksheets so much. They always have the answers in them. So as we're rounding this out here, I'll see if I can talk and write at the same time. But if you haven't checked out my free guide yet, it's pretty awesome. It's called the 5 Math Mistakes Everyone Makes and How to Avoid Them. And it is on my website, myersmathematics.com. You can go grab that at any time from my website. I'm going to be including more and more resources on there as we go. I'm really bad at double tasking. But that is the main thing, and I'll be doing some tweaks to that too to make it even better in the future, because that's kind of like my main guide. I'm going to turn it into, give it more of a positive spin in the future. So check that out. And if you're watching this video and it's been a little while since this video is out, that's probably already happened. So you can go check that out. It'll be an awesome guide that'll focus on 5 ways to get math problems right. So the guide right now is kind of focused on the 5 ways that you are possibly messing up math problems, and then it gives solutions to those. But I'm going to be tweaking it so that it's kind of got more of a positive spin to it, I guess. More along the lines of 5 things you can do right, so that you don't miss any math problems. So you get all your math problems right. Kind of a general guide, meant for any math class between roughly Algebra 1 and Calc 3. But it should be pretty helpful no matter where you're at or what you're trying to do, or even like SAT prep or whatever. So there you have it. If you haven't already grabbed that free guide, go grab that thing. Nope, I meant to put Quadrinomial. Kind of hard to spell, a little bit. Okay, and then this is going to be a 0-degree monomial as well, right here. So these are both the same 0-degree monomials, right? Doesn't matter what the number is, it's 0 degree because there's no powers, and it's monomial because there's one term. So they're both 0 degree. Any number is going to be a 0-degree monomial, right? And then here we've got a 6th degree black belt. I wish. I want to get to at least a 4th degree black belt because then you're called a master. Working on some tongue pseudo. 6th degree trinomial. And there you have it. So there are the answers. And speaking of answers, they're all in here as well. Look at that. I could have saved a bunch of time and just scrolled through, shown you all the answers. But it's probably kind of helpful to explain it as you go. And that's why I do that. That's why I do what I do. Because I want to explain why the answers are what they are. So you don't just have the answers, you have an understanding of what's going on. Because anybody can look up the answers, actually. I don't have special access to this stuff. I just Google it and find it. And it's got the answers in it. So if you're looking to check your work to make sure you're getting the right answers, just Google it, and you'll find the worksheet with the answers included in it. Obviously don't use that to like cheat or anything, but it's good to know what the answers are, because if you're just learning this topic, you're maybe not going to get it perfect right away. It might take a little bit of practice to get it perfect, and that's why there are worksheets in the first place. So anyways, I digress. I hope this has been helpful to you. If you haven't gotten the free guide, go grab it. It's super helpful. It'll help you out a ton. It's on my website, which is in the description below, myersmathematics.com. And of course, if you want to throw a like or whatever, you're welcome to do that too. And I will see you guys in another video real soon. Deuces.